Hello, it's me again. And I wanted to talk about it's not just about the M word. So, as the world has slowly started to wake up, some people are still desperately trying to pretend like I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. But most of the world is now starting to wake up and understand the experiences of Black people, particularly in the world of work. Now, comes with this like reading and absorbing of content because there is so much stuff, right? You cannot open any online news publication without hearing the stories of Black employees and their experiences. Like I won't even name any companies, but we all know who I'm talking about. There's loads, all coming out now in the wash, right? And as everyone else, meaning those who are not Black, suddenly also wake up to shit, like I didn't even know this stuff happened. Like I didn't know. I just want to bring everybody down to earth a little bit. Because before you get distracted and focused on what I call the overt signals of racism, right? It's the people chanting in Westminster over the weekend, it's people using N words, it's people being derogatory about Black people. That's like really overt stuff, very obvious. And it's easy for you to sit back and go, oh, I would never do that. Oh my goodness. No, 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 not on my watch. I would never, I would never. I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is some of the examples of how the covert racism, prejudice, discrimination appears in the world of work. Going into a meeting with your white colleague or manager to go and meet with a supplier or a client, and then that client addressing all of their questions, their everything from their body to their eye contact is looking only at your white colleague or manager the whole time, ignoring you, even when you speak up. Like, because so when I've spoken up, because I've noticed it, so I just sit back. They can like barely bring themselves to look at me. Okay, so that's like an example, but that's not the point of why I'm raising the example. As the white colleague or manager, when that has happened, what have you done in that situation? Because let me tell you, did you mention it during the meeting? Did you pull up said supplier or client after the meeting? Did you say to them, do you know what you did is not good? So if that's how you treat my colleague, direct report, whoever, teammate, we as a business are not going to do business with you because that's not how we treat our people. Did you do that? Or did you just turn to your Black colleague afterwards and go, oh my God, that's so bad. I noticed it. Did you notice that as well? Why do you think that is? Where do you think that That's how it plays out, right? It also plays out when you spend ages doing pieces of work and you present that pieces of work and it is overlooked or it's ripped to pieces or it's just not acknowledged in any way, shape, or form. You're missed out of meetings, you're missed out on emails, and then somebody else who looks the complete opposite to you turns up, takes a piece of what you've done, repackages it poorly in some cases, and presents it, and they get hailed as the hero. And then you're expected to say nothing. Or it's when new senior people join the business and make time for everybody else, but they never seem to have time for you. And when they do, they cut it short. They've only got 15 minutes. Yes, we will reschedule, and that rescheduling never happens. And you see them making time for everybody else, and you're like, what's going on? That's really odd. Or it looks like when you try to raise, back in the days when I was still like on a diversity and inclusion vibe, and you try and raise it, and you get told that inclusion, yeah, I mean, I agree with the principles, but I don't agree with doing anything separately because I don't think it's needed. And you're only saying this because you're Black. Like, you're only saying it because, like, I know why you're saying it. Or when you try and talk about it to somebody else and they say, oh, yes, no, I am all for diversity, inclusion, diversity of thought. And off they go. Off they go on this whole diversity of thought thing. Oh, yes, it's about, people from socioeconomic backgrounds. And, I always find that people from different industries, Shereen, it's different industries, isn't it? That's what's really important. That's what we need more of in this business when there's like three black people in the head office or whatever. Or it's when you're booked to be a speaker. Let's imagine for a second that I'm paid, but you're booked to be a speaker and you go in and you're pretty much ignored by the event staff. You're pretty much ignored by the other delegates because they're looking and thinking like, who are you? And then you get up on the stage and you do your thing, but then afterwards everybody's flocking to you to like, oh my God, it was so great, so great, so great. But I wasn't good enough for you to talk to when I stepped in, but now all of a sudden that you've heard me open my mouth and say something, now I'm good enough for you to engage with. Or it's when you go into a private members club or any sort of establishment, right, where people like us are not usually seen, and you get stared at, you get questioned. Why are you here? Are you lost? Can I help you? And there's like three other white people alongside you, and they're not getting that sort of treatment. Or it's like when you go and visit a client, maybe in an office building, right, and you go to the reception, and the receptionists, who are not the same color as you, act like they don't see you at all. And then when you're forced to say, excuse me, they choose to deal with somebody who came like 10 minutes after you. Like that happens all the time. Or when you're forced to have to put in a business case to deal with anything that means that people are treated fairly in the business. So whether it's because as we know, clearly I'm focused on a black vibe, I'm on a black vibe, but actually inclusion is about all underrepresented groups. So when you're trying to push for that, and the response is, yeah, but we've got like, isn't so and so gay? Isn't so and so whatever else it is? Like, we've done enough. Because that's the thing, what people have to understand is this plays out like, oh my God, in so many, it plays out all the time. These are just like little examples. I'll be here all year. These are just little examples. But this is the sort of thing that plays out all the time. And guess what? Most of the time when that happens, there are other white people, white senior people, white managers, heads of departments, directors who are there. If they're not the ones engaging in this sort of conversation that I'm talking about, they have witnessed it and they chose to do nothing to address it. And that's what goes back to when I make my point on all the videos, is because they're putting their comfort first and allowing me and other people to look like me to just live in the discomfort that we feel every day, because this happens all the time. And don't forget, this for us, this doesn't just happen in the work. It's not like we step out of work and all of a sudden like society is embracing us. No, we get this when we go into shops, when we're the only ones that security cards follow. We get this when we go to the supermarket and people want to try and pretend like we've pushed in, but we haven't, but they try and make a big deal out of it, knowing full well we are the only black person in the vicinity. So that all also becomes a bit of a deal. We also experience it when, as black women, we go into the world of work, and white women think it's okay to put their hands in our hair in an open plan office, and like we're free game to like just touch, and oh my God, can I touch your hair? It's like wool, isn't it? It's like oh, like 2 days ago you had straight hair, now it's like, oh, and now it's curly, or 1 minute it's, oh, I can never keep up with you black women because you're always changing your hair, aren't you? Because that's okay, right? Or when you join a business and you are one of the one or only few black people in there, and the senior directors take that as a cue that no more needs to be done, because by having one of you, that's enough. Like, we don't want to have too many. No. It's not an equal ops statement, Shereen. Jesus, we don't need, like, how many more black people do you want in this business? How many? One's enough. Look, you're senior, aren't you? Isn't that enough for you people? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Or the comments that says, sorry, I forgot you. Sometimes, Shereen, I forget you're black. Like, I know you're black, but I forget that you're black sometimes. Like, because otherwise I wouldn't have said it. But I feel like I can say it to you because like we're mates. So you know. Or when you're dealing with executive search companies, and you're having a conversation, and they're basically implying that said business that you work for is never going to hire another black person, and they know this because whatever reason. So they're very conscious of giving acceptable candidates who are white. And when they throw in the wild card, oh my God, because you know what, particularly in HR, it might be like a black man in HR. Jesus. God forbid if he's gay. And they always go, look, I just want to let you know. So then they feel the need to warn you that there's a particular candidate because you can't get it from their name that they're black, and they know said director, said head of department, whatever else it is, hasn't got a history of hiring black people, so they don't know, but this guy's really good. Can you? So you have all of this extra layer of conversation purely because they're giving you a black candidate, like purely. And then they say to me, like, I know I can put them in front of you, Shereen, because you're all about inclusion, you're all open minded, but I can't put that person in front of some of my other clients. It just wouldn't work. They would just never accept it. And then also it's about using the term culture fit. Like, listen, for anyone who thinks that this is the first time I'm talking about some of this, go back 2017, 2018, go and look at some of my posts. There are HR articles, interviews that I've done where I've talked about some of this stuff. There are videos of me on YouTube that are not mine where I've talked about some of this stuff. So this is not my first rodeo. Okay, not my first rodeo. So anyone who knows will know I have an issue with cultural fit. I've always have done because it is a euphemism for his face, her face won't fit in here. And within that euphemism about culture fit is also the thing about stereotypes, right? The labels that I talked about in my first video. She's too fill in the blanks. She's too punchy. She's too aggressive. I just find it uncomfortable when, because she just like pins you with her look, right? Or he's this big black guy, and I just didn't feel comfortable just like being in a meeting room with him by myself. Because all of this stuff happens. This is all the stuff we have to deal with. And we know this because when somebody else has to step in, like if a manager or our boss has to step in, they will always apologize profusely and go, look, you know what, I know it's really shit. They don't feel comfortable, but you know what, we can't be seen to be putting our, fragile employees in a situation where they don't feel comfortable. So I'm really sorry, but you'll just have to sit this one out. Don't you come to this meeting. Don't worry about it. I'll sort this one out. So all of this stuff, chips away. And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. This is why I talk about digging in the roots, right? This is why I talk about digging in the roots. Because it's not the big, grand racist incidents that's the problem. It's this day to day stuff that some of it, through ignorance and just complete lack of awareness, and some of it is deliberate. So for everybody that's saying, oh, I don't think it, no, listen, no, no. Some people know exactly what they're doing. It's the very same people who have issues reporting into black people. It's the very same people who feel like when you bring in a black person that they are more focused on the tokenism, so the optics of bringing in the black person, than they are about understanding that that person's got the skills and the capability to be there in the first place. It's also the people that dismiss anything to do with what's going on in the world because you know what, you're all right. Like, you're not sensitive, are you? Like all these other people are sensitive. I know I don't have to talk to you about some of this black stuff. You're all right, aren't you? We don't matter enough. Enough. We don't matter enough for businesses to push past their discomfort. We don't matter enough for people to stand up in solidarity and know when we are being ignored in meetings by suppliers that they turn around and say, I'm never going to deal with this supplier again. No, no, not at all. No, because we see them the next day, like, oh my God, fawning over them. Well, secretly, sorry, sit out this meeting. I'll do this one by myself. That's what happens. That's what happens. So if you are going to do something meaningful in your business, understand that you need to look at the behaviors, the day-to-day behaviors, and you need to focus in on some of those examples that I promise you your black employees will have copious amounts of them. And if you're still, you know what, there are some really good, and I am super encouraged. Like, I know it might not always come across like when I do my videos because I'm always like, but I am very encouraged by people that I talk to that don't have any black people in their business, and but are so galvanized by this and want to do better and want to be better that they're doing their work before coming to me, which is always a good thing. So they're doing their work, they're reading, and we're having what I call like really progressive conversations about some of this stuff. And that's the sort of conversations that need to be manifested in your businesses, within your HR teams, within your leadership teams. These day-to-day interactions, you know? So again, it's just giving you another layer of like context. Context is everything, isn't it? It's absolutely everything. Don't be distracted by the big bold terms. I'm not racist, it's not about that. No, 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 no. We've all got to take accountability. We've all got to take some responsibility here. And we've all got to recognise that, you know what, at some points we probably turned a blind eye. It's not just about the N word, my friends. It's not just about the N word.